My dear students, today I would like to acquaint you with John Dryden'S very famous critical discourse entitled An Essay of Dramatic Poesy. Primarily, I would like to draw your attention to some of the key issues which you will find in this particular essay by John Dryden. The full title, let me repeat, An Essay of Dramatic Poesy, although popularly known as Dramatic Poesy. Now, about Dryden, before I begin, about Dryden, one or two, three sentences. John Dryden, one of the representative writers, not only writers, critics, playwrights, poets of the Restoration period, that is from 1660 to 1700. As a playwright, his very famous play, well-known play, most popular play, is All for Love, and he was a satirist and at the same time a poet. His two very famous satires are Macflegno, possibly you have gone through, and Absalom and Achitophel, part 1 and part 2. Apart from this, he wrote several works of criticism, not systematically, but discursively. The first systematic criticism by John Dryden is obviously an essay of dramatic poesy. Now, I would like to suggest that John Dryden's An Essay of Dramatic Poesy is one of the most representative and outstanding critical discourses in the history of English, should I say, literary criticism, obviously, in the history of English literary criticism. Essay of Dramatic Poesy was preceded by Philip Sidney's, you have heard the name of Philip Sidney's An Apology for Poetry, which was written in 1580, but had its posthumous publication in 1595. Dryden's dramatic poesy, from the neoclassical point of view, was however supplemented by Alexander Pope's famous An Essay on Criticism, which was published in 1711. Now, these are the information which may not be very helpful for you from the examination point of view, but you should know them as the student of John Dryden, as the reader of John Dryden's An Essay of Dramatic Poesy. Now, in this audiovisual address to you, I would like to focus my attention on the basic and major critical arguments or issues forwarded by four speakers who figure prominently in this particular essay. Who are these speakers? These speakers are, number one, Eugenius, the fictionalized identity. Remember, the fictionalized identity of a real life character of Dryden's time, whose name was Charles Sackville, Sackville, Charles Sackville, who was Lord Buckhurst, to whom the entire essay is dedicated. The second speaker, who will be figuring prominently here, is Crites, Crites, in real life, Sir Robert Howard. Incidentally, he was the brother-in-law of Dryden. Third speaker is Lycidius. In actual life, Sir Charles Sedley. And the fourth and the last, but never the least speaker is Neander. Neander means new man. Why is he named so? Neander, new man. Why? Because number one, he stands for Dryden himself. Secondly, he is the representative of the new generation of the educated bourgeoisie, educated middle class, upper middle class, in one word, educated bourgeoisie, as contrasted with the three other speakers who represent the elitist, rich, scholarly, feudal aristocracy. Therefore, on the one hand, three figures stand: Eugenius, Lord Buckhurst, Crites, and on the other, obviously, there is Neander, the new man, the representative of Dryden. Now, after all these preliminary suggestions, introduction, I would like to draw your attention to the immediate historical context of the essay. What was the historical context, immediate historical context of the essay? The immediate historical context of the essay was a battle. The battle historically known as Battle of Lowestoft. Lowest, Lowestoft. The Battle of Lowestoft, which was fought on 3rd June 1665. It was the first major battle of the Second Anglo-Dutch War, the outcome of which was splendid, because the outcome of the war went in favor of the British army. The British victory, the British army became victorious. Therefore, when Dryden was writing this particular essay, 1668, there was still in the air that atmosphere of joy, atmosphere of jollity, atmosphere of national pride and glory. And as though to celebrate this time of national pride and glory, Dryden wrote an essay of dramatic poesy. Why do I say this? Because Dryden's essay, one of the key issues of the essay, Dryden's essay, accordingly, aims at the glorification of the native, that is English, dramatic practice and tradition. Let me repeat, Dryden's essay aims at the glorification of the English or native English dramatic practice and tradition. In fact, essay of dramatic poesy is the first systematic discourse and discussion, deliberation on dramatic principles in English. Moreover, Dryden's criticism in this essay has the special interest of being the explorations of a prominent working dramatist of his time, because an essay includes the first example in English of a close criticism of a single work by Ben Jonson. That single work of Ben Jonson is, in Latin, title is Epicoene or Episoene, Coene. And the English translation will be The Silent Omen. Episoene, Epicoene, or the English translation, Silent Omen by Ben Jonson. A dramatist who together with Beaumont and Fletcher was esteemed in Dryden'S day as highly as Shakespeare. But at the same time, we should remember that the other important key issue of an essay of dramatic poesy lies elsewhere. What is that? It is the first ever systematic critical account. I am suggesting systematic and critical account of European drama, not only of English drama, but of European drama, beginning with the Greek and Roman classicals, that is, Greek classical dramatists, Roman classical dramatists, down to the English drama of Dryden'S nearest contemporaries. So, my students, you can understand that is almost from the origin of drama in Greece and followed by Rome. This particular essay practically embraces the historical account, gives the historical account of the European drama, beginning with, for example, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, Aristophanes, also the Roman playwrights like Plautus and Terence, down to the English drama of Dryden'S nearest contemporaries. Therefore, you can imagine how many centuries the essay of dramatic poesy practically embraces and presents to us. Another interesting technique, feature of an essay is that Dryden is here, I can suggest in one word, Dryden is here Socratic. Socratic, the adjective from the proper name Socrates. You have heard the name of Socrates, famous Greek philosopher. Now, Dryden in this essay is Socratic. Why do I say Dryden in this essay is Socratic? Is he philosophic here? Is he a philosopher in this particular essay? Not at all. He follows the Socratic method of conducting deliberations through the exchange of dialogues among the four speakers. All right, you remember those four speakers? Eugenius, then obviously Crites, Lycidius, and Neander. These are the four speakers. And all the deliberations, discussions in this particular essay are made through the exchange of dialogues among these four speakers. Now, what do they speak about? What do they discuss? That is the question. They speak about various aspects of European drama, various issues upheld by the European dramatic tradition, upheld by the English and French dramatic tradition. For example, Crites. Take up the example of Crites. Crites presents his arguments for the classical dramatists. He speaks in favor of the classical dramatists. These classical dramatists are referred to by Dryden as the ancient, simply ancient or ancient, A capital, not small, A-N-C-I-E-N-T, but A should be in capital. So ancients. While Eugenius, second speaker, by way of contrast with Crites, speaks for the moderns. Moderns, once again, the word modern should begin with the capital M. So, speaks for the moderns. So, contrasting viewpoint. Ancient, modern. Then, Lycidius Lycerius, he obviously stands for the French dramatic practice, French drama, the qualities, merits of the French drama. While Neander, let me repeat, he represents the new generation of English intellectuals. In those days, intellectuals are called the wits. He represents the new generation of English intellectuals or English wits. And therefore, Neander, quite naturally, quite appropriately, being the representative of the new generation of English men, he speaks in favor of the contemporary English drama, and he wants to show that in every respect, the contemporary English drama is much, much superior to the French drama. Now, the question is why does Dryden adopt? Why does Dryden follow the Socratic method of discussion in this particular essay? I think for three different reasons. One of the reasons is that this kind of exchange of dialogues over certain issues represented by the four different speakers obviously make the essay lively. In general, this kind of essay tends to be very dull, boring, uninteresting. But Dryden's essay is lively. It is not only lively, it is quite interesting. Interesting for the academic-minded intellectual readers who are interested in literary criticism. Interesting. So lively and interesting. And third point, which is ensured by the Socratic method of discussion, is that the entire discussion is as flexible as it can be. And therefore, because of these three basic qualities, Dryden's An Essay of Dramatic Poesy turns out to be an extraordinary critical composition in the history of English literary criticism. Incidentally, the discussions, the topics, the issues of different types are primarily taken up by Crites, followed by Eugenius. This is one section. In the third section, from what is ancient and modern, Dryden draws the attention of the readers, attempts to direct the attention of the readers to the French drama. Why French drama? Because in Dryden's time, remember, it was the Restoration period, 1660 to 1700. French literature, French culture, French social habits had crossed the English Channel with the restoration of monarchy with Charles II. Naturally, we may suggest, if you allow me to coin the word, the Restoration England was Frenchified. Frenchified in every respect. Influence on French language, English language, influence on English literature, influence on English criticism. It is therefore quite pertinent, it is therefore quite important that among the four speakers, someone should speak out about the French drama. What are the usual practices of the French dramatists? How the French dramatists have maintained the three unities like the ancient writers, like the ancient playwrights. All these things have been applauded, praised, highly appreciated by the speaker, Lycerius. But in Dryden's essay, whenever we will take up the key issues, we will find that one argument is counteracted by another different argument. Argument, counter argument, point, counterpoint. This is how the essay, the key issues of the essay go on. This is how the key issues of the essay continue to impress the readers of Dryden'S writing. And I think as students, if you read the essay very carefully, you will also be impressed by this kind of method, by this kind of technique adopted by Dryden in order to foreground, in order to present to us the key thematic issues of the essay. Now, as I've been telling you, that Neander, who is the representative of the new generation of English critics, English intellectuals, English educationists, academicians, should naturally speak in favor of the English drama. How great the English drama is, how superior the English drama to the French drama, and how natural, quote and unquote, the English drama is, how realistic it is. And it is Neander who goes on appreciating the English dramatists of his time or some of his near contemporaries. For example, he talks about Ben Jonson, he talks about Beaumont and Fletcher, he also talks about the great Shakespeare. And therefore, in an essay of dramatic, if you summarize or if you look at the essay very briefly, very seriously, you will find that from the very beginning to the very end, the essay in respect of the key issues, the essay in respect of his fundamental topics and themes, never indulges in levity. It is all seriousness characterizes this particular essay of dramatic poesy. Together with this, another key issue in the dramatic poesy is obviously neoclassicism. Very important phrase, very important critical expression. Neo means new, and you are familiar with the word classicism, you are familiar with the expression neoclassicism also. But what is neoclassicism? How did it originate? Why did it leave some impact on 17th and 18th century English criticism? We'll have to discuss in detail. The only thing I would like to draw your attention to is that Dryden is a neoclassicist in this particular essay. But a neoclassicist with some difference. Notice, he is a neoclassicist with some difference. Now, what is the point of difference? We will discuss it very shortly. And so, I have already drawn your attention to some of the basic thematic aspects of an essay or of the essay. I have already focused my attention on the basic key issues or the important key issues of the entire essay. But something is to be discussed in detail. Something is to be deliberated in elaboration. Elaborate discussion, elaborate deliberation is essential. And these elaborate deliberations will cover Dryden's attachment to neoclassicism, his engagement, his critical engagement with neoclassicism. What is neoclassicism? And how does Dryden introduce himself as a neoclassicist, but with a difference? All these things are to be discussed separately. And therefore, I have already focused my attention on an essay of dramatic poesy, Dryden'S dramatic poesy, and I have already, I think, drawn your attention to some of the key issues of the essay. I think, as listeners to this audiovisual lecture, you have started to find some kind of interest in the essay. If not in my lecture, at least in my essay, at least in the essay of dramatic poesy. And I will continue with my discussion to sharpen, let me use that particular word, to sharpen your appetite, hunger for knowing it more. Like Oliver Twist, Dickens's Oliver Twist. You will say, after this, I think you will say after this, give me more, give us more. We are not simply contented with this. And I am here to give you more, to let you know more about an essay of dramatic poesy very shortly.